We wondered for a long time, who was to blame? We could not find an answer. And Naruto-kun? She begged softly, stuttering and swallowing her tears. In response, a mocking hiss, turning into a guttural growl. Bloodshot eyes, narrow pupils. A mad-fanged grin. A seething translucent reddish chakra that encompassed his entire body. A clawed hand grips her wrist with force. Naruto, I'm hot! She whimpered and made another attempt to break free. Shut up, bitch! He spat out venomously, licking his lips in anticipation. Without saying anything more, he pushed her to the floor and hovered over her. Hinata gave a loud ooh, and immediately squealed in fright as Naruto began to tear off her clothes, clinging to the fabric with his claws and turning her to shreds. Shut up already! He barked rudely and, bending down to her face, clenched his teeth loudly. Hinata shivered violently. She looked with undisguised horror at her lover, who was possessed by Kyubi, and cried, "Why are you doing this? Naruto, it's not you. Please stop." Again a timid voice, breaking in sobs. Hinata pressed herself against the wall and, pressing her legs to herself, tried to hide her large chest with her hands. In some places her skin was reddish, the result of her encounter with the Kyubi chakra. Hinata just came to visit Naruto for tea, as he invited her. And in the end, "Take your hands away, be a good girl." He grabbed Hinata's screaming hands and pulled them away from his chest. From the touch of hot chakra on her body, Hinata couldn't resist much. She only squeezed her legs tighter, but Naruto spread them as well. She felt very hot. This terrible chakra, she was so close. Hinata squeezed her eyes shut. "That's it, smart girl. The holy eggs of the nine tails, these are tits. Just incredibly big." Naruto eventually released the nine tails chakra to one tail and attacked it. When she came, he was already naked. Upon crossing the threshold and seeing Naruto naked, Hinata was scared and wanted to leave, but he gently dragged her into his flat and locked the lock. After that, he began to turn. "It's just super, you can it!" Naruto continued to wonder, clutching her soft chest in his hands. Closing his eyes, he touched the nipple with his pointed tongue. Hinata, unable to stand it, moaned. Ashamed of her own voice, she blushed thickly and lowered her head in embarrassment, trying not to meet Naruto's eyes. She had already understood what he wanted to do to her and, in principle, she never minded doing it to him, but not in such a violent form. This is how he frightened her. As if it wasn't him at all, but Kyubi himself, who, having broken free, coveted female flesh. "I just have to fuck them." Naruto smirked, not taking his eyes off Hinata's swollen nipples. Hinata hummed something. "Do you mind, bitch?" he asked haughtily, grabbing her chin and forcing her to look into his eyes. "Just say something. One more squeak and I'll plant you up to the ribs. Do you understand me?" Hinata nodded cautiously, swallowing the new sobs that rose to her throat. She decided not to resist any more, because otherwise she could only get worse. It seems that Naruto was not joking. But how could he do this to her? Did he really think that she would forgive him for such a thing? And if these are all Kyubi's tricks, what then? Something needs to be done urgently, because it can go too far. Not only she will suffer, but also Naruto himself. But what could she do? She was already screaming enough and no one was going to scream. As Hinata replayed one thought after another in her head, Naruto took care of her chest again, caressing her with his tongue and nibbling on her swollen nipples, causing Hinata to twitch convulsively, immediately trying to relax. Naruto's hands wandered along the inside of her thighs, now and then touching her labia and slightly spreading them with a finger. From the hot touches, Hinata fidgeted in place. Want the uncensored 18 plus part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380 plus scorching episodes. Fire. A virgin, he gasped hotly. How I want to possess you. Hinata, imagining what would happen next, instinctively squeezed her head in her hands and screamed. It's Kyubi after all. The fox slapped her in the face, and Hinata, instantly silent, fell on her side. I told you to be quiet, you human bitch. He barked, grabbing her by her long blue hair and lifting her off the floor. Get on your knees, girl. Just like that. Licking his lips again, Naruto walked up behind her and grabbed her buttock with his clawed hand. Hinata was silent, unable to scream anymore. She was too hot and hurt, especially her heart. Want the uncensored 18 plus part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380 plus scorching episodes. Fire. Sweat flowed down from Hinata in streams. Tears flowed in a continuous stream from her reddened eyes. She could not scream, but she still allowed herself to moan. Naruto, opening his eyes, leaned slightly to the side and languidly looked at her lush chest, rhythmically swaying in time with his beats inside Hinata. The walls of the flower squeezed his hardness so tightly that the orgasm came quickly, and the sight that opened up to him only increased the feeling of being at the peak of pleasure, pleasantly sharpening it. Oh, you're good. Naruto gasped abruptly, closing his eyes again, and began to pound harder into Hinata. She moaned even louder. If only Naruto moved softer, she could also share the pleasure with him, Hinata thought enviously, and continued to moan in hoarse half-moans. Arrrrrrr, Naruto growled, holding Hinata's ass tightly to him and pouring into her. This time, Hinata couldn't hold back her scream, though it was so hot that it seemed to be eating away at her flesh. From the strong burning, Hinata fell into intermittent sobs. Not enough high, Naruto growled discontentedly, taking his from Hinata's reddened and swollen crotch, covered in scraps of her virgin blood. We need more concentration. With these words, he stood in front of a tearful Hinata, who was tiredly sprawled on the floor of his flat, and thrust his still stiff under her nose. Want the uncensored 18 plus part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380 plus scorching episodes. Fire. Hinata smeared tears down her face with her fist and sat down in front of Naruto as he said. Seeing his erect hardness, its head resting on her nose, she shuddered and froze in indecision, getting used to the smell that hit her nose. Want the uncensored 18 plus part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380 plus scorching episodes. Fire. Hinata nodded, swallowing the last portion of the mucus that left a nasty taste on her tongue, and wrapped her chest around his. What an obedient girl! I don't even have to remind you. Naruto whistled in surprise and suddenly tensed. Hinata timidly looked up at him. The chakra enveloping his body became hotter. The speed of its flow noticeably increased. Kyubi grew a second tail. Naruto raised his head to the ceiling and growled loudly. Frightened, Hinata continued her work. She diligently squeezed his trembling hardness between her chest and sensitively licked the glands, on which the chakra was boiling, burning Hinata's entire face. Naruto lowered his head and, his eyes flashing, grabbed Hinata's hair, causing her to give her a short, ringing scream. Work harder, you bastard, he said through clenched teeth, pushing forward harder. Yes, that's better. Concentration is better and... He fell silent. For another minute in silence, he made repetitive movements, burning Hinata's lips until they bled and leaving a thick redness on her chest, after which he abruptly pushed her away. Hinata fell on her back and breathed a sigh of relief, though she didn't know what else lay ahead. I can't. Naruto grinned and stared at Hinata furiously, as if she was to blame. Concentration is good, but you need something else. Exactly. He smiled sweetly, hitting his palm with his fist. I'll satisfy this bitch, hee. With a bestial jump, Naruto found himself on top of Hinata. She tried to crawl back, but rested her back on the bed. Where are you going, dear? Naruto whispered gently in her ear and licked it. Hinata shuddered. Don't you want to get high too? Well, I'm sorry that I treated you so harshly. Hinata curled up into a ball and could not believe her ears. With a trembling gaze fixed on the void, she frantically tried to comprehend the fragments of words that reached her sexually tortured mind. Does he really? You want the full story, without censorship? Then rush to my Patreon. For just $4 a month, you unlock over 380 episodes of epic fan stories, from fandoms you've never even heard of. From classics like Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, to One Punch Man, DxD, and tons of taboo crossovers found nowhere else. Link in the description, or pinned comment. Subscribe now, and drown in unfiltered adult heat. One sub, the entire NSFW multiverse, in your pocket. You want to please her? What nonsense, it's Kyubi, he can't just do this. After all this, Naruto interrupted her thoughts by taking her in his arms and, lifting her from the floor, gently laid her on his bed. Then he carefully examined the frightened Hinata. All burns, bruises, abrasions. There are abundant blood leaks in the perineum. Swollen red eyes, the skin on her face is also red, dry hot lips. It seems that with his chakra he brought her a lot of suffering. Naruto grunted in satisfaction, and waved his tails threateningly. Do you want me to satisfy you? He asked directly, clearly mocking. Hinata looked at the fox in confusion. Why yes, probably, she whispered. So yes or no? Just don't hurt me. She squeaked, not losing hope, and wrapped her arms around herself tighter, as if it could help her. Yes, Naruto chuckled, winking at her. Immediately the smile slipped from his face. Naruto frowned and sank onto the bed on top of Hinata, his whole body pressed tightly against her. Kyubi buried his nose in her neck and began to kiss the delicate skin roughly, nibbling on it slightly, and leaving crimson bruises in his wake. Hinata, closing her eyes, breathed faster and pressed even closer to the guy. Now the fox's chakra enveloped her as well. Naruto's hands began to wander over her hot body. The left stopped at her waist, while the right quickly found another right placed the button. Feeling Naruto press her most sensitive spot, Hinata screamed and breathed even faster, getting excited through the pain. Want the uncensored 18+ part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380+ scorching episodes. Fire. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered, biting her tongue and arching to meet him. Naruto leaned over her languid face and licked her lips. More Naruto-kun, she moaned, dousing him with her hot breath. Want the uncensored 18+ part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380+ scorching episodes. Fire. She, screaming loudly from the injury inflicted on her crotch, immediately fell silent, trembling slightly in the deadly embrace of the fox. Ya! Ha! With a pitiful crack, the front door of Naruto's flat shattered into pieces, and Sakura appeared on the threshold, who was in a serious panic. Naruto, I was walking under your balcony and heard screams. I thought maybe something had happened and... Sakura stammered, looking around anxiously and, only then noticing Naruto with Hinata, pressed her palm to her lips, frightened for a moment. What the fuck are you doing, you half-measured? She flew into a rage and, jumping up to Naruto Kyubi, slammed her fist into his side, causing the fox to roll back to the other wall. Sakura's first act was to heal Hinata's wounds. Glancing warily at Naruto as he regained consciousness, she tried to quickly think of something, and to understand what is happening here at all. Naruto had 2 tails of the 9 tails. It didn't look like a joke. It is unlikely that he did this to Hinata of his own free will. Sakura-chan? Naruto looked at her questioningly, sticking his face off the floor. Sakura looked at him inquiringly. The voice belonged to Naruto, but the fox's chakra did not subside. Even the look did not change, the same red irises and slits of the pupils. Naruto? What do you want? He roared and with one jump stood on all fours. A third tail began to crawl out of the bubbling chakra. It was necessary to act quickly. Sakura, casting a glance at the window, picked Hinata in her arms and jumped, intending to break the glass and end up on the street, but Naruto beat her to it. Swiftly jumping on Sakura, he knocked her to the floor and punched her in the face. Hinata remained unconscious on the bed. Naruto continued to slap Sakura in the face until she went limp, looking wearily at his tormentor, who was sitting on her in such a shameful state and pinning her to the floor, holding her by the throat with his hand. Naruto's appearance was intimidating. In fact, in front of her was Kyubi himself. Just squeak, and I'll shorten the boy's life by 30 years. The fox hissed in Sakura's face, burning her skin with his chakra. And the same applies to her. He poked his clawed finger at Hinata. Do you understand? His life depends on you, girls. And you will work out his power, which he uses so mercilessly, without giving me anything in return, once a month. I will fuck you until you lose consciousness. And that's the secret, do you understand? Sakura clenched her teeth and tried to break free. Kyubi? What are you talking about? Shut up, sweetie, he growled, licking her lips. You understand me perfectly. And don't even think about outwitting. And now please the boy, he loves you so much, open your mouth. He pressed Sakura's cheeks, forcing her to open her mouth. You! She wheezed, but Naruto had already stuck his tongue in her mouth. Sakura almost choked on the moisture-draining chakra in her throat and coughed. Kyubi, greedily kissing Sakura, reached under her skirt with his paw and was now stroking her thighs, heating the fabric of her leggings. She mooed pitifully and tried to break free. The kiss was so burning that it was not pleasant to her. A minute later, the fox broke the kiss and hissed in Sakura's ear. You're fabulously lucky that I don't want to any more today. Your girlfriend has tired me too much. He glanced sideways at Hinata. But you probably haven't learned your lesson. I'll have to torture you a little. The red fox licked his lips, dripping hot saliva behind Sakura's collar. What? Sakura moaned. Kyubi sank his fangs into her left wrist, causing her to scream loudly and do so again when he also bit the second, thus eliminating the possibility of her hitting him hard. Sakura's strength was crushing. With one blow she could gouge his house into pebbles, so it was necessary to prevent possible trouble. Of course, Kyubi was stronger, but it was not in his interest to destroy everything around him. So he just clamped his paw over Sakura's mouth, and the other began to penetrate her intimate area, cutting the fabric of her shorts and panties with his claws. Sakura wasn't excited, so it hurt a lot when she was invaded by the fox's chakra-hot fingers. Want the uncensored 18+ part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380+ scorching episodes. Fire. She did her best not to cry, but tears welled up in her eyes against her will. She didn't endure such pain, so why is she crying now? From humiliation? From the fact that she was unbearably hot. The fox's claws tore at her from the inside. Sakura felt herself getting wet, and suspected that along with the lubricant, her own blood was also asking to come out. Naruto, who was in fox form, growled furiously and continued to brutally beat Sakura. She closed her eyes and wondered what to do now. She couldn't seal the demon on her own, so she had to sneak away somehow. She tried to move her fingers, but the movement was extremely weak. Blood was dripping from her wrists, and if Kyubi had damaged her veins, she would soon be in Hinata's place. A tear treacherously rolled down her cheek. Sakura jerked to the side again. "Where?" the fox barked, pressing his paw against Sakura's chest and pinning her to the floor again. Sakura sobbed and closed her eyes. What is to be done? What is she to do? What did Kyubi say? Can he come out of Naruto himself? Did he blackmail them? Will she and Hinata be raped every month? And if any of them let it slip, could Naruto die? How is this possible? A particularly strong push inside and a turn that rakes the internal organs into a mess. Sakura gave vent to tears, cowering from the intense pain that swept over her. Kyubi pulled his fingers out of it and licked the blood from them. "Warm," he growled, and stuffed them into his mouth completely, enjoying the taste. Sakura, straightening her bent legs, breathed heavily. In her hoarse breathing, notes of hysteria were heard. The terrible pain tearing her from the inside did not give her peace. "Kyubi, you will monster," she moaned. "Thank you for opening my eyes," he said affectionately, pulling his fingers out of his mouth, following the elusive pleasure with the tip of his tongue. "By the way, my time is running out." "How inopportune." He shrugged his shoulders indifferently. "But we'll meet again. Don't forget that this is our secret." Sakura, grinning, spat in his direction. "Oh, that's rude," Kyubi sang, dodging the spit and turning back to her. "I hope you enjoyed my caresses." The Nine-Tails burst into mocking laughter, which further infuriated Sakura. SSS. The fox raised his index finger to his lips and smiled radiantly. Immediately, the chakra began to dissolve, gradually freeing Naruto's reddened body from its captivity. Completely freed from the power of the Kyubi, Naruto collapsed unconscious to the floor. When Naruto came to his senses, he found only a pulgrim around, a smashed door, a crumpled bed, a floor speckled with blood, and overturned furniture. "What happened here?" he drawled discontentedly, pouting and scratching his head. "Why am I naked at all? What the hell?" His question remained unanswered. Only the body ached as if it was engulfed in fire. For some reason, Naruto thought of Kyubi, but immediately dismissed the thought. In the end, it was impossible.